Hi, I'm Veronica and welcome to Jersey City Pilates. In today's Feel Good Pilates class, you're gonna need a dish towel. You can leave that off to the side for right now, but you will need that at the start of class. Your other things that you'll need are a yoga block or a book, something hardcover, I guess. If it's not hardcover, that's fine. A book about this size, similar to a yoga block, would be absolutely perfect. You can also use a textbook or a cookbook, but you will be putting it on your back, so just bear in mind you don't have too big of a book when you pick it if you don't have a yoga block. And we'll get started. All right. You can see Julio having a grand old time on the couch. Come to stand at the top of your mat. You can face your computer, you can face the side, it doesn't matter. And you will need a block or a book like this would be sufficient, and a towel as well. And to start, just grab your towel. Again, grab onto your towel, have your fingers nice and long, your thumbs and your other fingers. Reach them long towards the floor. Just let your shoulder blades kind of slide down your back, but don't push them down. And then let your knees be soft. Reach long through the fingertips and just lift your arms up. Wherever your back goes, your shoulders, doesn't matter. Just take a nice big reach up and then let the towel come back behind your head a little. And then once you find a comfortable position, find the connection between your ribs and your hips. On an exhale, your arms may lift back up towards the ceiling more. And then from here, you're gonna side bend up and over towards the right. Keep your head square in between your arms, root down through the left leg, and then come all the way up. And then up and over to the other side. Oh.
Did you make the mic the thing?
Oh, hold on 1 second. I realize you probably can't hear me 1 minute.
You have to make the mic the input.
Ah. Okay, sorry, my computer, can you hear me better now? All right, I think that should be better. Had my computer as the audio. All right. Hopefully you can hear me better now. Lifting your arms up overhead, find that connection between your ribs and your hips. And then side bend up and over to the left. Root down through your right foot. And then up to the top. And over to the right. And then back up and over to the left, but this time you're gonna cross your right leg in front of your left. Press gently into your left leg with your right leg, and then rotate your ribs, reach your right arm around. To the side, you'll be at kind of a diagonal. And then keeping yourself in that side bend, rotate your torso to face the center, the front, and then come all the way back up. Uncross your legs. And then cross your left over your right. Side bend up and over to the right, as best you can, keeping that rib to hip connection. And then pull the towel apart as you rotate your torso down towards the floor. Reach back with your back ribs. And then square yourself to the front. And then come all the way up. Uncross your feet. And then bend the knees a whole bunch. And then reaching long through your arms. Hinge at the hips so you come into a nice long line, or wherever you start to get a hamstring stretch. If you can, keep your ears between your biceps. And then you're just gonna lower your arms down towards your shins, keeping your sitting bones reaching up towards the ceiling. You're in this nice flat back. And then pull the towel apart, lift your arms up by your ears. And then lower back down towards your shins. And then pull that towel apart, lift up. 3 more just like this. Really getting your shoulders moving. Kind of a little prolonged hamstring stretch here. The crown of your head is drawing long towards the wall in front of you. And if you can, think about lifting and widening your sitting bones just a little bit more. Abdominals draw away from the floor. Last one. Keep your arms where they are. Stand all the way up. And then bend your elbows. Leave your arms down by your sides. Soften your knees again, and then just drag the towel down the front of your legs. Nod your chin and reach the crown of your head towards the floor. Knees again are soft. Pull the towel apart, tuck your tailbone under, draw your hips up toward your ribs, and then peel yourself up one vertebrae at a time. Stacking your spine up nice and tall. And again, nod your chin and roll all the way back down. Lead from the crown of your head and your arms. Pause at the bottom, and then come all the way back up, articulating your spine one vertebrae at a time. And last one. Round down, tuck the tailbone under, open up through the front of your hips until you can go no farther. And then start to rotate your pelvis around your femurs. And then just notice if you got a little bit extra length. Now my hands are touching the floor, they weren't a moment ago. Pull that towel apart, lead towards the floor with the crown of your head, and then just reach your arms around towards the left side. Keep reaching back through that right sitting bone. And then come through the center, over to the other side, trying to stretch through that low back on either side, or maybe even the stretch will go up into your low back, or mid back rather. Wherever it goes, hopefully it feels good. If it doesn't, stop. The last one to the left. Head is nice and long, make sure you don't have tension in your neck. Last one. Come back to the center, tuck your tailbone under, round yourself up one vertebrae at a time from the pelvis until you can't turn your pelvis anymore. And then just stack your ribs up one vertebrae at a time. And then let your head find its place on top of your neck. You're gonna bring your towel off to the side. And you're gonna come onto all fours, bring your block near you. And continuing with this excellent feeling spinal articulation, have your knees right underneath your hips, and then tuck your tailbone under. Think about lengthening through the low back as much as you possibly can. And when you can't do that anymore, your bottom ribs are really drawing in towards your hips, then you're gonna round through the upper back. So try to make it as smooth of an arch as possible. You don't just want it all upper back. You want it to be a nice smooth curve. And then uncurl your spine one vertebrae at a time. Ribs stay connected towards your hips. So you're not sinking down towards the floor, you're lifted, and then curl your tailbone under one more time. And then uncurl your spine. Think about your collarbones are nice and wide and you're showing your collarbone through to the wall in front of you. And last one, like this. Good, find a nice neutral position. And then you're gonna come out of it. You don't need that neutral position yet. Bring your right foot up so you're in this nice 90-90 position. And then you're just gonna bring your hands on top of your hips and you're gonna square your hips off. So you want your hip bones to be the same height. And you can just look down or put your thumbs on your hips and bring your fingers towards one another in the front, and you'll be able to see more or less if they're at the same height. You're gonna keep that. Think about sending your right sitting bone like it's gonna touch your left inner thigh. And then from here, you're just gonna arch from the tailbone and then tuck the tailbone under. So you're just moving your pelvis around both femurs. They're just in different places. And then pause when you have that tailbone tucked under. So your low back is nice and lengthened and you should be getting a stretch in the front of your left quad. And then here, bring your hands on top of your shoulders or on your chest, whichever works for you, and you're just gonna rotate over towards the right side, holding that position, and then come back to the center. One more time, rotating, keeping that tailbone tucked under. Feel your right heel draw back towards your left knee. And then reach your arms, right arm long towards the floor, and left arm up and over towards the right. And then bring your right knee down. Also fold your mat over or use your towel to pad that knee if you need. Switching sides. Same thing. Tucking your tailbone under, double check, make sure your hips are nice and square. Ooh, my low back just hurt. And then tuck your tailbone under, lengthen through that low back, but not the upper body. And then arch the low back. So you can hopefully see a little with the white background here. I'm just rotating my pelvis around. Keep reaching that front knee forward. You can bring your hand onto your knee if that helps. One or two more times. And then find that tucked under position with your pelvis. And hips are square. And just getting that stretch through your right thigh. Hold on to your upper body wherever works. And then you're just gonna rotate towards the left, growing tall as you do so. And then come back to the center. and to the left. And center. Left arm drop down, right arm reaches even more. Thinking about those hips staying square. And then bring your hands down and your knees back down. Grab your block or your book. This requires a little bit of balance, so if you lose your block, don't get discouraged. Grab the block in one hand, and then you're gonna bring it onto your sacrum. So you don't want it on your low back, but you want it on the bony part, just below the like fleshy part of your low back. Your hands are underneath your shoulders. And if you are not in a neutral spine with your lower body, or you dip one hip, you will notice because the block will fall. So keeping this position here, you're gonna lift the right leg up and you're just gonna extend it back behind you. Open up through the back of the knee, and then from here, think about reaching long through your right toes and open up through the front of that right hip. And then tap that leg back down and then lift it back up. If you have the balance, if it's comfortable, you can bring your hand onto your right hip. I'm doing right now. Just to give yourself a little bit of additional feedback. And then think about really lifting the leg from the back of the leg. Again. Last one. Bend your knee. Place it underneath you. Try to switch sides without losing that block if you can. Open up through the left knee, toes stay on the ground, and then float your leg up. Again, use your opposite hand now, if that is a helpful cue. I find that even someone else's hand telling me what to do is more helpful, but using your own kind of helps you figure out like, oh wow, I have one hip that is 3 inches lower than the other. Bring that hand back down if you had it lifted. 2 more, neck is nice and long. Last one, bend that knee underneath. You're gonna extend your left leg back behind you. You're gonna extend your left arm now in front of you. And if you can, you're gonna bend your hand and knee, arm and leg, and then extend long, trying to keep that block as still as possible. If this is not available, you're just gonna lower and lift the arm and the leg, or you're just gonna stick with the leg lift, or if you're sick of lifting your leg, you're just gonna move your arm and keep your low body nice and still. One more. And then bring the hand down, bring the knee down. Switching sides, extend the left leg, bend the right arm, lift them up, and bend it in. Keeping that nice neutral. Don't worry about them touching. Your ribs are drawing towards the opposite hips. Create a little X to keep your torso, abdominals nice and supported. And think about how that X kind of wraps around off the back of your ribs and your spine. This will be supported from the top down. 2 more. Last one. Extend that arm and leg long. Lower the hand, lower the leg, and then grab the block. And bring it off to the side. Go ahead and sit back on your heels, this is not sitting on your heels. Sorry, my brain is struggling today. Come to a high kneeling position. I am going to fold my mat over for this. Grab your towel if you would like. And if you do have a block or a book, you're welcome to put it in between your feet to hold on to, or you can put it in between your knees like this to hold on to. I'm gonna forgo that. But if you find you have a hard time getting your inner thighs to work, put it in between your knees. Book or block, doesn't matter. It should be resting on the ground and then you just squeeze it. Extend your arms out long. Really think about that tuck through the pelvis. Think about lengthening your low back, bringing the tops of your hip bones up towards your ribs. You can use your hands to physically do it if you need. Your abdominals are wrapping in, and then extend your arms long, pull the towel apart gently, and then from the crown of the head all the way down to the knees, hinge back. Getting a major stretch through the front of your thighs, and then lift up tall to come forward. Your arms stay still, they're just hanging out in front of you, but try to have your wrists nice and long. 4 more. And if this hurts your knees, you're going to come into that lunge position that we did earlier, the 90-90. And just focus on getting both stretch on one side at a time. Again, connect those ribs towards your hips. Your butt might be squeezed a bit, that's fine. And then think about drawing in your pelvic floor, giving it a little squeeze, working all the way through the inner thighs. 2 more. Neck is nice and long. Last one. And then pause here. Lower your towel. Extend your right leg out to the side. Extend your arms long. Turn. Keep the padding on your knee if you need it. We'll be off our knees in a moment here. Slide your right arm down your left. Right arm down your right leg, and then left arm up and over, but don't collapse. Think about being up and over stretch. And just really get that great stretch through your left side. Pressing your hip forward so that left hip is open. You may still get a thigh stretch or a hip flexor stretch on that left side. I'm very much currently getting it. Feels nice. And then you're gonna open your ribs up and spiral forward, like you're gonna bring your left ribs back towards the wall behind you. Your gaze can kind of follow. You may move a lot, you may not move. I don't think it looks like I moved. And then come back to the center and then rotate, reaching long out of the left hand, but reach your right ribs back now. So don't collapse forward, still stay mostly upright. And then back to the center, and then switch sides. Don't forget to move your stuff out of the way. So left leg is long, have that foot fully planted. Side bend up and over with the right hand. Left hand is just gently pressing into that shin, not working particularly hard. And then again, tuck that tailbone under, press forward with the right hip. And then open up towards the ceiling. First, you give a little press on the left hand to help give you a little bit of torque. I don't know. You may get this stretch in your abdominals. And then come center, and then reach long with the right arm and rotate up and around. Here, that left hip will not be pressing forward. Just make sure you're not pressing directly on the kneecap on the left side. And then back to the center, press that right hip forward, and then come all the way up. Unroll your mat. Grab your towel. You can have your legs long or bent, whatever is more comfortable for you. Bring your block up towards the top of your mat. We're gonna grab it in a few minutes. Extend your arms long, wrists are long. Tuck your tailbone under, but think about keeping the crown of your head high. Hello. Opening up through the front of the hips, like you're gonna put your sacrum down on the floor, and this is the area in the front of your hip that you're focused on opening first. So it's the pelvis, ribs tucked toward your hips, and then let all the way down. Reach the towel overhead, take a nice big stretch. And then bring the towel up in line with your chest, hands over your shoulders. Collarbone is nice and wide. Make sure you don't have a death grip on your towel. Plant your back ribs into the floor. Nod your chin, lift your head, neck, and shoulders. And then bring the towel behind your head so that you're supporting your head. Plant your feet on the ground. And then you're just gonna lower your head down and then curl your head, neck, and shoulders up. Try to be in a nice neutral pelvis here if you can. So you have that little bit of space underneath your low back, curling up, and then lower down. 4 more. 3. And if you're feeling like you need to work very hard today, bring your legs up into tabletop. That's not me. 2 more. Last one. Pause at the top. Bring your right leg up into tabletop, and then lower it down. And we're gonna alternate lifting your right leg and then your left. Noticing how that weight shift is happening in your pelvis. Hopefully you can minimize that as much as possible. Head is pressing back into the towel. And think about folding at the thigh crease to bring that leg up, not moving from the foot. 3 more to each side. You can also be doing this from that tabletop position where you're reaching down towards the floor. Last one to each side. Sorry, I was wrong. Now last one. And then lower yourself all the way down. You can grab the towel out from underneath your head, extend your legs long, pull the towel apart, curl your head, neck, and shoulders up, reach the towel long, and then bend, not bend, curl up halfway. And then from here, you're gonna come down just a few inches, thinking about tucking that tailbone under, and then draw yourself back up. And then tuck your tailbone under, and back up. And you can do this from the very top of your mat, you can do this from the bottom. Pick the place where it feels comfortable on your back and your abdominals to be here for about 30 more seconds. And look down at your abdominals. Do you find them kind of pushing out where you have like a little dome in the center? Or are they drawn in more where your ribs are connected towards your hips? If you find that they're pressing out, bend your knees, shorten your range of motion, come up a little higher, go down lower, maybe do this from the floor. We're gonna do this 4 more times. 3, 2, really small. Last one, pause, rotate to the left, to the center, to the right, to the center. We're gonna do this 4 more times each side. Legs stay totally still. If they're bent, that's fine. But your toe isn't reaching one past the other, one foot past the other. So left, center, right. Make sure you're breathing. 1 more time to each side. And then roll yourself all the way back down. Reach your arms up overhead and take a nice big stretch. And then bring your towel off to the side, grab onto your block. And you're gonna plant your feet on the floor and then lift your hips up and put the block underneath your hips. And you want it on the bony part of your low back, basically exactly where we had it before. You can also roll your towel up and put your hips on your towel, or you can fold your towel and drape it kind of over the crease of your block or book if it's kind of too hard on your back. Make it work for you. You can also do all of this from the floor. So here, your hips are nice and heavy. You may notice that your ribs started to pop, so you're gonna press your elbows into the floor. Lift your upper body up and then extend your shoulder blades away from your hips. Let them open and then just let your ribs kind of soften towards the floor a little so your shoulder blades are primarily on the ground. And then press into your feet and then just make sure that that weight is in your shoulders. You're gonna lift your right leg up into tabletop and then extend it towards the ceiling, keeping your hips nice and square. Reach it down long towards the floor. Go with whatever range of motion is comfortable for you. Bend your knee if you can, sweep your toes along the floor, and then lift it back up. So we're just doing a bicycle here. And the purpose of the block is to give your hips a little bit of a lift so that you get that extension through the leg. 1 more time in this direction. And then pause at the top, and then you're gonna do your bicycle in the opposite direction now. So reach it long, you have that extension, and then sweep it back up. 4 more. Again, make sure that those ribs haven't started to pop, you're not in an arch. Last one. And then bring your leg into tabletop, and then extend it long, and bring it back in. Here, if you want to make things a little bit more challenging, you're going to have both legs in tabletop. Your left leg is going to stay totally still, and you're only moving your right leg. 4 more. 3, 2. Last one. Bring that leg in toward your chest. If it is comfortable, plant your right leg, bring your left knee into your chest, and then extend your right leg long, if that is comfortable. And then really think about your hips being heavy, your ribs being heavy, and then press down through the thigh, like you're flexing the thigh on the right side, and you'll get a little bit of a hip flexor stretch here. And then grab onto the outside of your left leg, and then twist up and over if the block is big enough. Carefully you don't roll off. For me, my hips are so tight, it doesn't matter that I'm about to fall off. Take a nice big exhale. And then plant your left foot, leave your left foot in tabletop, extend it long towards the ceiling, and then sweep it down, around, and up. Again, keeping your hips heavy, square. You can always look up to check to make sure that your hips are nice and even. Shoulders are on the floor, ribs are pulling down and drawing towards your hips. Last one in this direction. And then resist, reverse. 2 more. Make sure that right leg isn't falling out to the side now that it's a little fatigued. Last one. Leave that leg in tabletop and then extend it long and reverse. And again, you can have your right leg in tabletop, but that leg is gonna stay totally still. Try to have that knee right over your hip and you'll feel the difference in your abdominals if you have that knee in toward your chest or directly over your hip. It really increases the lever and adds quite a bit more extra work. One more time. Bring your knees into your chest, grab onto the right side, extend the left leg long. And then just take a couple of breaths here. Think about pressing down through that left thigh and then softening through the right thigh to bring your right knee in towards your chest. One more breath. And then bring that leg across. Bring your hips into the middle more if you need. And then give yourself a little twist. Keep pressing down with that left thigh. Make sure you're not squeezing your butt and like popping up on top of the block. That will make you roll off faster. All right, and then come back, plant both feet, and then lift your hips up, pull the block and towel out from under you, and then tuck your tailbone under, draw your hips up by your ribs, and then slowly articulate yourself down one vertebrae at a time. And then just bring your feet wide and let your knees rest in on each other for 1 second. And then just let your back kind of like figure out its place on the ground. And then you're gonna walk your feet back in and you're gonna bring your knees in line with your hips. Tuck your tailbone under, we're gonna do a little bit of bridging. And think about pressing your entire low back into the floor. Press your feet into the ground as well. Your low back, your back ribs, everything into the ground. And then keep that sensation of pressing down as you keep drawing your hips up toward your ribs, and then peel yourself up one vertebrae at a time until you open up through the front of the hips. Bring your hands, if you can, on top of your thighs. Reach your fingertips towards your knees as you peel yourself back down one vertebrae at a time. Think about creating length in the spine as you lower down. And then now you're gonna lift up and you wanna think about filling the space between your hips and your arms. As you lift up, tuck the tailbone under, heels draw in towards your glutes, and then peel yourself back up. And then back down. Really articulating, go at your own pace. We're gonna do 2 more. And if you find a sticky spot, feel free to stay there and sort of tuck your tailbone under and then let it release a few times, whatever feels good. Last one. And then pause at the top, bring your hands down by your sides. Find where your feet are really well supporting you. Tuck your tailbone under, feel your pelvic floor draw in and up. Your ribs are connected toward your hips. If you were to press on your abdominals, they're very clearly working, but they're not hard and squeezing. Your heels are drawing towards your shoulders. If you poked your glutes, they're definitely working, but again, they're not clenched. And then same with the hamstring. So give yourself a little poke to the inner thighs. Your calves are probably working. And then here, externally rotate your upper arms. So really try to make your collarbone as wide as possible. You can bring your arms out wide if that helps. You can also turn your palms up towards the ceiling. And then from here, think that someone is standing there with their hands on your kneecaps. And then you want to keep your knees connected with their kneecaps as you curl all the way down one vertebrae at a time, keeping that length through the thigh. Keep reaching the knees, collarbone is wide, and then let your low back release onto the floor. You can have your hands behind your head or you can grab onto your towel, your choice. Either way, you're gonna bring your head supported up, slide your ribs towards your hips, bring your right leg into tabletop, And then you're just gonna rotate up and over towards that right leg and then come back to the center. You can be in a pelvic tilt here if you need. And if this is too much, lower that leg down and you're just gonna do the rib to hip connection here. 3 more. Really thinking about sliding those left ribs over towards the right. Last one. And then switch sides. So left leg will lift up and over, right rib towards left hip. And if this is too much, lower that foot down. 4 more. Sorry, 6 more. We did 8 on the other side. If you can, try to keep both shoulder blades lifted off the floor. And it's not a big movement, but try to look at your stomach and notice that rib shift over towards the left side and that your hips are staying totally still. Last one. Come back to the center. Lower both feet down to the floor. You're gonna open your right thigh out to the side. Feel your right thigh all the way down towards your pelvic floor. Engage from the knee in as you bring the thigh back up. You're gonna switch over to the left side. Externally rotate that leg. Foot stays on the ground. Back up. If this is too much, lower your head down and bring your arms by your sides. If you do that and your head is down, bring your hands onto your hips, just so you can feel what your abdominals are doing and what your hips are doing. To the left. Breathe before you move. To the right. Do the last one just to the right. To the left. Really engaging through those inner thighs. And now you're gonna bring both legs out to the side at the same time. And then almost feel like your hip bones are drawing towards one another. And your ribs as well. And again, your head can be lifted or your head can be down, whatever feels right. 4 more. If your head is up, make sure you have space between your chest and your chin. 2 more. Last one. And then lower all the way down. Lengthen your legs long. Grab your towel if you don't already have it in your hands. Lower your arms, lift your head, neck, and shoulders. Reach your fingertips towards your feet, and then roll all the way up. And then let your knees be soft, but round forward over your legs. Grab onto your feet with the towel and slide your heels away. But more than that, like I'm not gonna straighten my knees. Think about bending through the elbow, not pulling hard, but thinking about that little pull from the arms, and then use that to lengthen your spine. And then just take a breath here. I'm still getting a little bit of a hamstring stretch here, so if you feel that, it's normal. You can flex your feet, you can point your feet, whatever feels good, but just try to think about lifting up and working your back. And then from here, try to keep your back exactly as it is, and then drop your towel and just press your hands into your shins, and then think about lifting up a little bit more. Relax your toes if they're not already, and then release. Come over onto your stomach. If you have a floor where your towel will slide, just fold your mat a little, and then you're gonna come to lay on your back. Well, you're gonna be on your stomach rather, not your back either way. And then if you can slide your towel on the mat, that's great. If not, you can just do this with your hands, no worries. But bring your hands in front of you, have them slightly wider than your shoulders, and then lower your head down so that your nose is hovering off the floor. Before we go anywhere, press your hands into the floor and feel all the muscles around your armpit and down your side and into your shoulder kind of engage as you press down through your whole hand. Make sure you're pressing evenly through all of your fingers, the palm of your hand, and the heel of your hand. And then press your pubic bone into the mat, as well as your hip bones, and then feel your ribs draw up towards your hips. So you lengthen your low back and feel your abdominals have the sensation of pulling away from the floor. They should still be on the ground though, just that they're engaged. Legs are relaxed. Press your hands down and then slide your hands back towards you as you press down into the floor, bringing your chest through your arms. So you're gonna come up into a little bit of extension, hips are heavy, and then lower all the way back down as your arms slide away. and then press down. The lift comes from your back, upper back rather, and mid back, not from your low back. Send your chest through your arms. Gaze is still straight ahead of you. Your neck is nice and long. We're gonna do 2 more like this. And last one. Good, pause here. Reach through the right leg nice and long. Reach through the left leg nice and long. If this is comfortable for you, you're gonna keep your torso lifted. If it's not, lower down and make a little pillow for your head with your hands. You're gonna bend the right knee and then reach the toes up towards the ceiling as you lift or have a sensation of lifting the thigh off the floor, and then lower it down. Extend the right leg long. Bend the left leg just to 90 and then reach the toes up towards the ceiling and then lower it down and extend. So you're gonna bend, reach long through the knee away from you, and then use that to find the length through the front of your hip and extend. Your low back is still nice and lengthened, but you're in that extension in your upper back. And then now you're gonna lower everything all the way down. From here, you're gonna do like a full extension. You're gonna float your toes long. Think about reaching through your knees rather than your toes, which sounds ridiculous, but think about lifting from the thigh and the hip flexor. And you're gonna lift your legs just to a hover, and then lift your torso. And lower everything back down. And then again, lift everything up. Think about reaching long with the crown of your head and your legs. 2 more. Hips are heavy, abdominals draw away from the floor. Protect your low back. Your low back should be working but not hurting. Last one, pause here. Lift the left leg, the right arm. Right leg, whatever. Opposite arm and leg, other opposite arm and leg. 4 more. 3, give it a little butt squeeze to help you lift from the hamstring and the glute. 2, last one. And then lower everything all the way down. Leave your towel where it is. Press your hands into the floor and round back into a child's pose. So bring your knees nice and wide if they're not already. And then think that someone is behind you, pressing down on your sacrum, giving you a little extra stretch through your low back. Think like the weight is in your sitting bones and it's sort of magnetized to the floor. Sure. And then release the chest and press the chest down towards the ground. Press your hands into the floor, your armpits towards the floor, and open up the front of your chest a little. 1 more big inhale and exhale. And then walk yourself over to the left. Reach long out of both of the arms and that right sitting bone, just like we did in the beginning of class standing. 2 more breaths. And over to the other side. One more breath. And then come back to the center. And then curl yourself up. And come to be in a little, you're gonna come into a side plank, a modified side plank. So you're gonna be on your forearms and your knees, and you're gonna lift your hips up, and then you're gonna lift your top leg, extend it long. If this is not comfortable for you, you're gonna lower your hips down and you're gonna stay right here. So your torso is like it's exact same position, regardless of whether your hips are lifted or not. You're gonna come up, and this is a balance challenge as well as just an everything challenge. Flex the right foot. Keep your right hand on your right glute. Feel the hip drop back into your hand as you sweep the leg forward. Point the toe, sweep it back. You can bring your hand onto your hip flexor, opening up through the thigh, but not the low back. Bring it forward and then sweep it back. We're gonna do 5 of these on each side. Sweep it back. Your low back doesn't change. You can also just bring a hand onto your low back. And if you're sitting on your hip, you're doing the exact same thing. Last one. Good, bend the knee, bring the heel back towards your hand, and then grab your foot with your hand if you can, and then press your hip forward to give yourself a little bit of a hip flexor stretch, but make sure to not press your torso forward, so draw your ribs towards your hips. You can also wrap your towel around your foot if you cannot reach your foot, or just use your heel and hamstring to engage through the leg to open up through the front. Drop that leg down and switch over to the other side. So your hips are in line with your elbow, more or less. Press down, lift into that side plank, and just make sure that your weight isn't all the way in your legs. I didn't say this on the other side. So you're truly in that supported side plank position. Lift your top leg, extend it long, sweep it forward. Make sure that hand drops into your glute, drops into your hand. Low back is nice and still. This side is hard. 2 more. Last one. Bend the knee. Feel that stretch through the front of your hip. Grab onto your foot if you'd like. And then draw the ribs towards the hips. And enjoy a little hip flexor. Thigh stretch. And then lower that leg down. Come back onto your forearm, and then let your body sink down towards the floor. Draw your ribs in towards your chest, your hips towards your ribs. Bring your legs into tabletop, or just one leg, whatever feels good. And then from here, you're going to put weight into your sacrum and then lift the chest. So you're still connected in the front of your body. You're not arching, but you're not sinking down into your shoulders either. And you're just gonna let your hips lift up, knees over to the right, lower them down, over to the left. So you're rolling across your sacrum, the back of your pelvis, staying lifted through the chest. Like you're wringing yourself out. So the ribs up don't move. Your neck is just hovering above your spine. Once more to each side. And then from here, lower your legs. Press yourself up. Pause here. Grab onto your shins with your hands. Round your low back. Draw your abdominals in. Find that rounded position with your upper body as well. Draw the abdominals in. Take a nice breath. Roll back just so the shoulder blades up. Use your breath to pause. Think about rounding your low back so much that that's what brings you back, and use your breath to try to round out any flat spots. One more time. I lied. Last one, you're gonna come onto your feet. If you can, try to lift your hands. Plant your hands. Bring your legs back behind you. Find your plank. Tailbone lengthens. Neck is nice and long. Chest is proud between your collarbones. Between your shoulder collarbone is lifted. I don't know. And then lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Make sure you're square on your mat. Come back into your plank position. Drop your knees, keeping that nice lengthened position. You're gonna bend the elbows back by your side. Come down into a nice tricep push-up. Press up. 5 more. Neck is long. Make sure your shoulder blades are flat on your back. 2 more. Last one. Pause at the top. Curl your right toes under, lift through the back of the leg. Left side lifts. Hold your plank here for 2 breaths. You can also do this on your knees, of course. Last one. Lift the hips up. Bend the knees a bunch. Walk your hands back by your feet. Have your knees be nice and soft. Curl your tailbone under, round yourself up 1 vertebrae at a time. Standing anywhere on your mat that's comfortable. Staying totally still. Sorry, I'm thirsty. You're going to shift your weight over into the left side. Hinge at the hip. Bring your knee up into your chest. And then grab onto your shin with your hands. Lift your chest. Give yourself a little hug on that right knee. Jamal, can I have water, please? Thanks. All right. And then release that knee. Try to keep it there. Slowly lower it all the way down. Same thing left side. Hinge at the hip, bring it up. As high as you can. Keep your chest proud. Grab on with the shin with your hands. And then release the hands, slowly lower the leg. You're gonna do the same thing one more time to each side. All good now. Hinge at the hip, bring it all the way up. Grab on with your hands. Lift the spine. Too much talking. And then release the hands, slowly lower your leg. Last time to the left. And then release. Slowly, 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 lowering down. Keep those knees nice and bent. Hands on your hips. If you want to grab your towel and put it behind your head, you're welcome to. Sitting bones go one direction, head goes the other. Your ribs are connected towards your hips. Get that nice hamstring stretch. And then fold forward over your legs one more time. Bend the knees a bunch. Draw your sitting bones down the back of your legs. Curl your ribs towards your hips. Heel yourself up one vertebrae at a time. Keep that connection in the front of your body. Reach your arms up tall overhead. Lift yourself up onto your toes and then let yourself wobble a little and then find the place where you're evenly standing on your feet. So you're using the whole ball of your foot, your toes. Externally rotate the fingers, the hands rather. Press your arms down. Slowly lower yourself down to the floor. As you lower your arms, your knees are soft. Ribs are drawn up towards your hips. Your head is nice and tall. And you are all finished. Thanks. Thanks for coming. Sorry for the coughing. Water.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.